New York City's the basketball season is upon us. Free agency is behind us. We've got a lot of basketball to talk New York City. Let's do it. Another day, another dollar at the front office pod. More like no dollars, but here we are doing our duty, getting ready to talk about probably the most exciting Nets season for a Nets fan in their lifetimes. I know in my lifetime I can't think of any season that there's been higher expectations. So I'm happy to bring in my partner, Mr. Sam LaChow, to talk about such thing. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. I actually want to make one quick comment because I liked your comment just now about the expectations, and I actually think one thing that's kind of interesting about the Nets' expectations is that people think so low about Kyrie and KD at this point, whether it's KD's health or Kyrie's mental state, whatever it is, that even though they're talked about a lot, they're almost becoming underrated because people are already like so sick of them, even though neither of them have done anything wrong yet.
It's crazy. It's like I'm seeing these things where they have Jokic and Murray ahead of us. I'm seeing people just basically saying it's a slam dunk that the Lakers are going to beat us, and I think it's crazy. I mean, you've tempted me, so I want to say this and address that real quick because it's not our plan for the podcast, but it's a great way to start the show and something for me to say to kind of build, be a platform on this coming discussion, right? Which is free agency, the off season, etc., etc. So I was thinking about it, and everybody knows that I am if the Nets had a competent power forward, we would be in such a better place. And I really, really believe that in that building, the Nets mind consortium, the Nets brain trust, are looking at the pieces that they have and saying, how the hell are they going to guard us? We could come down a court and basically have defenses on their heels, even in the half court. The Nets have elite shooting. If buckets start falling, I don't see how the Lakers keep up with us. I really don't. Sam, speak on that. How do you think we match up with the supreme team in the NBA right now, which has got to be the Lakers?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the matchup that and I guess the Bucks are the two that really stand out in terms of like how would they match up because of length and height. And I don't know. I mean, to be honest, as it pertains to the Lakers, I just think that it's funny because I'm someone who always gave LeBron a lot of crap because I felt like he never went through big time teams. And this past year, the Lakers actually went through teams with really good guards. If you look like the Blazers, with Lillard and McCollum, with
I'm
the
sorry,
Rockets,
Sam.
with
Sam,
Yep.
I got to stop you there. The bubble, them not having to play. Basically, the Clippers gave them this championship. The worst team that could have faced the Lakers in the finals were the Heat. The Heat played what the Heat can do, played right into their hands. The Heat was out physicaling all of the East. They basically was like, all of you guys are punks, and we're just going to beat you guys down, and you don't have enough offense to stop us. That is the worst way to attack the Lakers, and I feel like the type of team that's going to beat the Lakers as currently constructed is like the Golden State Warriors. and the Nets could be the super Golden State Warriors if and I'll tell you why. Tell me why I'm wrong before I tell you why I'm right.
No, I mean, look, I was gonna just say that what's interesting is that even though the Lakers had to go through a lot of guard specific teams on their way to the finals, and I agree with everything you said about the Heat. A lot of their guys were not at a lot of the guys they had to face were not at full strength. So you look at I almost call it like the bubble guards syndrome that we kind of had with Lillard and McCollum were exhausted. They played like 9 straight games. Harden and Westbrook were both coming off COVID. So I do think that if the Nets were to be healthy and we're going to play the Lakers, I think they would really provide I think they would be a struggle for them. I mean, in the end, I think the fact that the Lakers could outmuscle them and the Lakers could arguably have the 2 best guys in the series, depending on where Durant is at, that's obviously the biggest issue. But I do think the Nets could play into some of the Lakers' weaknesses.
No, and I don't think LeBron wants to run for 4 games, much less 7. He likes to slow it down, kind of stand at the top of the key with the ball in his hands, and that's not going to work with Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan in the middle. Are they going to really try to post us up? They're not going to want to have a 3-point shooting contest with the Nets, and I'm not even worried about Kyrie being there. Let's say Kyrie's not there, and Dinwiddie has to start. I think the Nets have just so much firepower that the Lakers is not going to be able to keep up with us in scoring. They're just not. I'm not saying that Joe Harris is Steph Curry. He's not. Joe Harris is not going to come down court and pull up from 3. That's not what he's done. I've seen him do it, but that's not what he's going to be allowed to do in this offense. But when he is in corners, when he has the ball in his hands, defenses have to respect him like they have to respect Steph Curry. They have to actually guard him like they have to guard Steph Curry, and that's just going to let Kevin Durant eat you alive. I don't even think just alone that Kevin Durant is going to be a beast, but I think the main person who's going to eat the most out of Kevin Durant passing out of double teams is going to be Jared Allen or DeAndre Jordan or Karis LeVert. I'm thinking of it and analyzing it from the position of someone who would have to guard these people. Watching Karis, and Karis wasn't having a good go of it in the beginning with Kyrie at all. But Sam, this dude, the offense that we were able to produce when we had that team, this year's team is better. Landry Shamet is a better shooter than anything we had last year, not named Joe Harris.
Yep.
Karis LeVert. That was rough coming out. Karis LeVert is ridiculous if considering that he's never not seen double teams, right? So,
yep.
How do you defend that? Like I don't as all these people making these, rankings and trying to figure out where we're going to be. How do you defend that Nets team? I don't get it. I don't think the Lakers want to have to keep up with our scoring. And it's not just solely on Kevin Durant. It's just that if Kevin Durant is on your team, you have to defend him with 2 people and another person who's going to hedge. And for the first time in Karis LeVert's career, when he has the ball in his hands, teams can't sell out to guard him.
Yep. No, I mean, look, we already saw. This is what I'll say. I think they match up in the East. They match up the worst against the Bucks because of their size, and the Nets just never match up. Have since Giannis has become Giannis, they just have gotten annihilated to the Bucks usually.
Yep.
But we also haven't had a guy named Kevin Durant on the team. But beyond the Bucks, I mean, like when you look at the Celtics or even who the Nets have matched up well with in the past in some of these regular season games, and obviously that's again been without Durant. And then when I look at a team like the Sixers, who I think a lot of people are really high on this year, and look, they're for sure. And to me, the fact that Vegas has the Nets still as the favorite for Harden, which is something we're going to talk about later. Like I think the Sixers are clearly the Harden favorite, and I think they're the favorite by a mile. But even if they don't make the Harden trade, the Nets have. I mean, we've seen the Nets play well against that Simmons and Embiid combo. Like we saw 2 years ago with a team that's a quarter of as talented as this one is.
No,
So,
they're dead in the water. I'm sorry, they're dead in the water. Like I don't see it, like really the Nets couldn't defend the Sixers in their playoff against them. You know, and those were the baby Nets. Um, but if they could have had more offense, if like you swap out the offense being able to be produced by D'Lo, everyone knows I love D'Lo, and you swap that out for the offense being produced by Kevin Durant, my God, who stopped again? Like, the Bucks have a pretty good defense,
wait,
but
and not to mention, I just want to interrupt you really quickly. Not to mention that the best player on that Sixers team in that series was Jimmy, who's not even on the team anymore.
yeah, and even where he is, that what the Heat did, and the way the Heat got to the finals was basically just being the most physical basketball team in the East. They out physicaled the Bucks. They out physicaled Boston. They just like they're a shithouse team. They just
Yeah,
muck it up.
I mean, look, the thing with the bubble, which is just something I think like everyone's got to like get out of their head to a certain extent, is like some of the individual player performances are definitely super impressive, and I don't want to take anything away from those guys, like the Jamal Murrays and the Donovan Mitchells, and even what LeVert did, like that stuff you can't take away from. But like let's be real, like all things considered, the teams that really won in the bubble. Maybe it would have been the same finals. I personally think there's a very small chance. I think the bubble was basically based off of who was the most mentally there. And I think I know a lot of people say like, oh, these guys get paid millions of dollars, yada, yada, yada. But like being in Disney World for 3 months, not seeing anybody. And also if certain teams didn't buy into it or didn't think that it felt as legit as a normal season, or if you're someone like the Clippers where maybe being able to go back home and see your family when you don't love the team could have like provided actually something nice. Like I just think like to take anything away from the bubble in large part is kind of a fool's errand, just because I think it's just not something you're ever going to see again, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in these Lakers. And
No,
I know I know that's a crazy thing to say
I feel
because
the
they
same
looked
way.
really good. But I think they
I
sleep
mean,
on how much
we're gonna look.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna.
Go ahead. I'm
I'm just
stepping
gonna say,
on you.
I've been with you on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was like, I've been with you on the Lakers stuff because like we're gonna look back on history and we're gonna say like the Lakers won the championship and like who was their third best player on that team? Like Rondo or
Right.
Caruso or like I mean
Right.
it's just, or Kuzma or like I just don't believe that team in a normal NBA season wins it all. I know they have two of the 5 or 6 best players.
Yep.
I don't know. I just there's something the Lakers and the Heat were the two teams from the outset that totally bought into the bubble and were totally there, and I think a lot of the bubble was a mental game, which is why like I think the fact that certain people think like the Heat are favorites again to come out of the East, I just don't see in the slightest at all. I think and you saw the teams that didn't buy into the bubble and looked miserable to be there played miserably. The Clippers played miserably. The Sixers had the Ben Simmons thing and they looked miserable to be there. Like that's how
Yeah.
the Bucks like didn't really seem to be totally there. Like
Oh, it's gonna be a different can of squirrels this time. It's gonna
yep.
be something completely different. And I kind of look at some of the things that's happened this off season, and I've got to say we've started the season in typical Nets fashion with ridiculous takes in the